Dueling decisions on one of the main drugs used in medication abortions. First came the ruling by a federal judge in Texas scrapping FDA approval for the drug mifepristone. But less than an hour later, a federal judge in Washington state ruled to protect access to the drug in 17 Democratic-led states and the District of Columbia. Those two decisions are the most significant abortion rulings since the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, as we all remember, last summer. It sets the stage for abortion rights to be a leading issue in the 2024 campaign. And talking about this more with us, joining us now, CNN senior political analyst John Avlon and CNN political commentator and host of PBS Firing Line, Margaret Hoover. Guys, great to see you as always. We appreciate it. John, you know, this issue really motivated Democratic voters in 2022. But it seems to be a battle that a lot of conservatives want to keep having, even though it might not be the best thing for their own political health. What do you think?
I think the message the voters keep seeming to send is it's the extremism, stupid. I mean, you know, this is Republicans have a significant win from their perspective in removing a constitutional right to an abortion. But most voters look at this and say 70% of Americans believe it should be safe, legal, and rare, and basically in line with the previous status quo. And yet, taking the win, their judges keep, you know, taking down abortion pills, pushing for a national ban on abortion. That's the position that some maximalists in the Senate have taken, some people running for president. And so there's a sense that this goes against common sense and individual freedom in a fundamental way where people feel right has been taken away. So as long as Republicans keep pushing for a maximalist position, you're going to see a pushback from folks who had previously been silent on the issue because they thought it was settled law, which it was, until 3 Supreme Court justices reversed themselves. Yeah,
and Margaret, I mean, last year it was described as the dog catching the car, but it seems like they want to keep catching the car.
Jim, there is no issue. I think even Donald Trump, where Republicans are more in denial about the negative effect this is having on the party and their viability to win elections at the state level, at the federal level. I mean, this issue, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, for example, and we went on to see really the bloodletting of the 2022 fall election cycle results, which should have been a tidal wave of Republicans into the House of Representatives and turned into what became 5. Not a single conservative editorial page, not a single conservative commentator was able to admit or recognize that, and we have now data to prove that it was the Roe v. Wade overturning, it was the Dobbs decision that overwhelmingly impacted the women coming to the polls, suburban women coming to the polls. And there are some Republicans who are willing to recognize that publicly, very few. Representative Nancy Mace from South Carolina, for example, or a pro-life Republican who's willing to say this position is killing the party. But there's a stranglehold on the party with this one issue. The special interest simply cannot let go of its chokehold, and that's Republicans are going to keep losing if they're not able to meet the country where it is.
Yeah, and this John, is what pisses people off about politics.
Yeah, and John, I mean, speaking of that, in a different state, in Tennessee, the decision to expel those 2 young black lawmakers who were taking part in a protest over gun regulations, gun reform. Representative Gloria Johnson, who is white, she survived expulsion by 1 vote. I tried to ask a fellow Democratic lawmaker earlier this hour about this. He didn't want to go down that road and say, well, it was because of race that these 2 were expelled while she was not. What do you think? I mean, it just doesn't, it certainly feels like that. It certainly played a role in it. It played a part in it. I mean, how can you deny it?
But that's what she said on CNN the other night. Yeah. So, you know, I'll take her word for it. But again, it's an example of the self-defeating politics on the Republicans' part, where they've elevated these 2 young men. They'll probably be put back in the state legislature. There's a reasonable good chance for that. But it's also about this creeping reluctance to embrace representative democracy. I mean, you've got, you know, in a city and a town and a state reeling in the wake of a horrific mass shooting at a school. And instead of taking any action at all, they try to punish the lawmakers who are protesting with the people outside. That's about shutting down debate, not being responsive to people's needs.
And for a party that's going to wrap itself in the Constitution, I mean, the Constitution and legislative branches, as designed by the founders, are by definition designed for the process of bargaining and negotiation, for having an opinion and having that opinion refuted. These lawmakers spoke their mind, had a peaceable protest, peaceably assembled, as the First Amendment says that you can, and their speech was shut down. They were punished for it. That is not how the Constitution is supposed to work. And
Are you saying it's not a free speech issue? Okay,
it's
just check.
weird. It sounds like cancel culture, but to the extreme.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, I jest only because if I don't.
It's so
know
true.
what
And the
else
emotions
I
were
mean,
so raw. The emotions were so raw in Nashville. I mean, one would think it would be easy to understand why some folks would want to protest, and some state lawmakers might want to join those protesters. I mean, that to me, I think, kind of got lost in this whole thing, is this terrible, terrible, awful tragedy that took place in Nashville. Of course, people are going to be fired up about that sort of thing. But I want to ask you about one more thing, guys, and that is, I mean, there's so much that has happened since last Tuesday. It feels like maybe a couple of years ago, but it was just several days ago that Donald Trump became the first current or past president to be indicted and arraigned. And I just wonder, doesn't this continue to be good for Trump in the party, in the Republican Party, but terrible in the general election?
Well, it is. I saw my husband. I'm doing a side eye right here because I saw him make a funny look. The truth is, you're right, Jim. This is good for Trump in the party. It has solidified his front runner status for the Republican nomination right at the moment. I mean, that's what's happened. He's raised $7 million in the last week. 25% at least of those dollars are new dollars. And the base of the Republican Party seems to really be rallying around him and doing an us against them, the Department of Justice, rule of law against Trump. It's a bizarre turn of events, but it's real.
Well, it's a reaction. Yeah, it's a reaction. Let's be real about that. And to your point about, Trump's resurgence being, a poison pill for a general election, what CNN's new poll showing only 26% of independent voters approve of Donald Trump. Over 60% thought an indictment was justified. Only 8% said it had no merit at all. Those are independent voters who end up making the decisions in general elections. So, the party, he may thrive on the oxygen of attention, but if that moth keeps going to that flame, it's going to be burnt to a crisp.
Right. And with other potential indictments coming, other trials potentially coming down the pike, I can't imagine the numbers you just mentioned, John, heading in the right direction for Trump and the Republican Party when it comes to a general election campaign. John Avlon, Margaret Hoover, great to see you as always. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jim. Be well.
All right.